those. I might as well make the technical announcements while people are still joining. First of all, I'm Bill Thompson. I'm the head of the OECD Eurasia division, and I'll be moderating the first session of today's webinar. The second session will be moderated by my erstwhile OECD colleague, Antonio Fanelli, who is in fact one of the leading experts in this field, particularly of SME policies, but also has been working with us closely on digitalization. So Antonio will take over for me in a little while. It's a rich program in terms of substance, so I won't even try and talk about that. I just want to alert everyone to some of the technical points raised in the slides. The most important ones. First of all, please keep your microphone muted when you do not have the floor and unmute when you take the floor. If your microphone is open and you are not speaking, every other participant pretty much hears everything that is happening wherever you happen to be yourself, and that might be work colleagues, phone calls, children, pets, whatever. Secondly, please note that if you want to make a comment during the discussion or raise a question during the open discussion, you may either type it into the chat, which is quite straightforward, or you can raise your hand in Zoom fashion, which is to say open the participants menu. And using the participants menu, you will see an option to raise your hand. It's quite important because, frankly, if you physically signal to the floor, you may not be seen because it's impossible for the moderator to see all of the participants at once. So best to use either chat or raise hands in Zoom. And finally, we do have interpretation between Russian and English. Simply go to the Zoom menu. There's an interpretation button with a globe icon. Choose the language you need. We have two suggestions. One is to turn off the original if you want to hear interpretation while you're listening to interpretation so that you don't hear both at once. And the other, which is more important, is please to turn off interpretation before you take the floor yourself. It depends a bit on your microphone and computer settings, but very often if you take the floor while you have interpretation turned on, you and other participants may experience some technical problems. With that housekeeping out of the way, I think we can move on to the real substance of the morning. And first, I am happy to pass the floor to my colleague, Daniel Quadbeck, the head of the Eastern Europe South Caucasus unit at the OECD. Daniel, please.
Thank you very much, Bill, and good morning, everyone. Very, very good to see so many of you. Very warm welcome from my side on behalf of the OECD. Thank you for joining us today for this second regional policy webinar on SME digitalization. I'd like to thank, first of all, the European Union and Poland for the financial support for this project, which we are implementing under the umbrella of the EU for Business initiative. Debin, Dariusz, it's very good to have you with us today, and thanks for the excellent cooperation, which is not only financial, but also substantive. So thank you. Now, today is the second in a series of webinars which we're organizing on SME digitalization for the Eastern Partnership region. And this one today, we want to focus on the issue of building SME skills for a successful digital transformation. And I'm really excited about this subject, as it is indeed impossible to talk about digital transformation without putting people at the center of the discussion. So today, we want to look into the role played by skills formation policies in the digital age and looking at different types of skills required to navigate a digital world. We will take stock of the availability of digital literacy education in the Eastern Partner countries and then discuss different policy options governments could consider to bridge the skills divide in the population and to increase the skill supply, which will be essential to meet the growing demand from SMEs, from business managers, to help them cope with the challenge of digital transformation and bringing the business models and their businesses into the digital era. I'm very pleased that we have with us today a great variety of speakers, including OECD colleagues that will help us frame the topic, as well as experts from OECD member countries, from the Eastern Partner region, as well as representatives from both the business community and policymakers, including in particular also Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, Ms. Valerie Yonan. Yonan, we're very pleased that you're with us today. Well, let me stop here. I'd just like to stress that we want this event to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to intervene, put your questions in the chat as they come to your mind, or raise your hand in Zoom. I really wish we are having a productive discussion. So feel free to intervene whenever appropriate. And we're excited to have you with us today. So thank you, and I wish us a good event.
Thank you, Daniel. And now, as Daniel mentioned, the European Union is financing this work along with Poland. And in addition to thanking our two donors for making this work possible, I want to pass the floor to them in turn. First to Hoa bin Ajimian, the Head of Sector for Economic Development in the European Commission's DG NEAR.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Daniel, and good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to join this second seminar. I think the first seminar organized by OECD on the topic was quite a success with a lot of discussion. Let me first recall why we're here today. I mean, one of the reasons you all know that this summer we confirm our priorities and confirm our commitment to the Eastern Partnership through a joint staff working document, the priorities for post-2020 of the EU with its Eastern partners, in which digital is very key. Digital in this plurality of dimension, going for infrastructure, where we committed to support that 80% of the population have access, because access is important to affordable high-speed internet. E-governance, where we thought that we could support, sustain, and work jointly with the 6 governments to ensure that 85% of the services were provided through online services through interoperable platform. Businesses, where I think we've been doing a lot, and we aim at supporting 500,000 SMEs in the coming 5 years. And foremost, skills, I mean, skills in the entire dimension. In terms of objective for skills, we set the bar, I think not so high, but in a way ambitious and doable, in a way that we were thinking that we could support more than 1 million citizens and empower them in their digital skills. And how do we were thinking about doing it? I mean, the key partner, and foremost, we need strategies. And this is why we're really happy to partner one more time with OECD to reinforce, because we have to make sure we have the right strategy. In addition to working on strategies, we also have several key programs, and I would like to just mention 2 of them that could add also and build on the strategy. The first one is the advice for small business that we're implementing jointly with EBRD. We've put in place a platform, it's very interesting, where consultants that we've been training for the last 10 years can match demand from SMEs and receive services. This is a direct way to procure skills, and I think it's quite innovative. And the thanks are using the COVID crisis accelerate our transformation and platform to move onto a platform and to bring scale for skills. And that's something that is quite innovative, and we're touching tens of thousands of SMEs, and it's one way to support skills. The second would be from EU for Digital. EU for Digital, we have taken the political commitment to continue EU for Digital and to have a focus on digital skills. It's something where we want to learn from the today's meeting. We want to learn about which strategy, how to implement. So there is a budgetary commitment, a political commitment, and the way to go has to be shaped. So this is great that so many of you would join today to better advise the EU. Maybe the third dimension on which we're working in skill is that we're supporting the e-skills network, Eastern Partnership networks, where different agencies, different governments engage in e-skills are meeting on a regular basis with the support of EU for Digital, and also thinking about the strategy. So I think that the different dimension we're working on complement very well the strategic vision that we're building with OECD and the work and the input that you will give today. So let me thank one more time my colleague from OECD for the commitment to work on strategies, and I would say strategy comes first. Thanks also to the commitment of Poland to support this vision and your engagement today, on which we want to build for the future of cooperation. Thanks a lot. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Bin, very much. And now I'm pleased to pass the floor to Dariusz Monjało, who heads the Political and Economic Affairs section in the permanent representation of Poland to the OECD. Dariusz, please.
Thank you very much, Bill. Good morning to all participants. I'm pleased to be invited to participate in this event and to make introductory remarks on behalf of Poland. The cooperation with Eastern Europe and South Caucasus plays an important role for Poland. Since many years, we have supported the implementation of the OECD regional program addressed to Eurasia, which covers the countries from this sub-region. And this engagement will not change in the coming years. Today, we are having a second seminar dedicated to the small and medium-sized enterprises digital transformation, this time focusing on skills formation policies. Ladies and gentlemen, successful digital transformation requires systematic skill development. One question is, what key skills are needed to drive digital transformation? But you must also look at this issue from a broader perspective. What are the major drivers of skill developments in firms? Which role should play the management? Which are challenges faced by small and medium-sized enterprises and how they can be tackled? The firms must empower and enable their staff to be proactive with a positive approach to change and identify, understand, and develop the necessary talent and skills. This is just a tip of the iceberg of the issue to be addressed. I'm sure that the discussion today will shed a light how the OECD and its member states can help the countries in the region in this context. Ladies and gentlemen, the OECD is the best place where the country will find the advice on how to meet the challenges the country faces. Poland, since its accession to the OECD, which took place exactly 25 years ago, benefited a lot from OECD expertise. We improved our understanding of many issues concerning different aspects of economic life and made our regulatory system more effective and efficient. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dariusz. And now we begin our first session looking at the importance of skills for digital transformation in particular. And I'm pleased our first presentation will be from our OECD colleague, Andrea Minea, an analyst in the Directorate for Education and Skills. The Director for Education and Skills has done a lot of work on the types of skills needed for the future. And Andrea is going to guide us through some of that work, looking in particular at the aspect of bridging digital divides and inclusion. I hope you'll tell us a bit about the kind of skills that are needed to make sure that digitalization really is a force for inclusion and not for widening inequalities. So I'm very glad to give you the floor, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let me first share my screen. Is it fine? Can you see it? Yes. Okay, thank you. So hello, my name is Andrea Mina. I'm an analyst and director for education and skills at the OECD, working currently in the policy advice and implementation division. I have been working in the past years on several strands of work related to the type of skills that are needed to thrive in a digital society, but also on how education systems have progressively digitalized and integrated new technologies to help build the skills needed for the 21st century. In my presentation today, I will be presenting first some of our main analysis from the OECD Skills Outlook on skills and digitalization. Our aim in this publication was to understand what was the role of skills and what is the role of skills and also of skills-related policies in making the most of digital transformation, and how policies can best accompany workers, but also citizens to navigate and make the most of these changes. We know that the digital transformation changes the skills people need in the world of work. There has been a lot of emphasis on job automation, on how many jobs are going to be lost because of the digital transformation. But our analysis the focus of our analysis was to understand how technology changes what workers do on the job and the implications for skills. And we emphasize that more digital jobs require greater use of cognitive skills, but also greater performance of a variety of tasks that involve also management, communication skills, accounting, and so on. But the digital transformation also transforms the skills needed for a digital society. COVID-19 has shown how many of the services that we access as citizens have gone online, and individuals have needed to have the necessary skills to be able to engage in these activities. But finally, technology, and I will come back to this later in my presentation, can also be part of the solution. So we tend to focus on how technology disrupts or transforms our practices, but it can also bring many opportunities to learn. But I will get back to this later in my presentation. So as I was mentioning, the digital transformation goes beyond the world of work. It affects many aspects of daily life. And we've seen that the digital divide in terms of access has progressively narrowed across countries, although many challenges remain, as has been shown by the COVID-19 crisis. But access to the internet and digital infrastructure is only a first step for inclusion. Once access is gained, differences in how people use the internet and in the outcomes they derive from their internet use may remain. So there has been a progressive shift from focusing on digital inequalities in access to inequality in use and then in outcomes. For instance, if you think about low-skilled people, if they use the internet more for chatting and entertainment, whereas high-skilled one, especially in the current context, have used it to look for jobs, keep on training, accessing e-health services, then the digital transformation actually amplifies existing inequalities. So how does digitalization change the skills people need to thrive in society? To answer this question, we've tried to move beyond a simple focus on digital competencies to identify the mix of skills, digital, but also literacy and numeracy, that individuals need to engage in online activities. And to do so, we've created a unique data set that combines, on the one hand, data on the type of skills individuals have based on assessed performance in the OECD survey of adult skills, PIAC, with data on the activities that they perform when they go online. This latter data, we've used it to be able to build profiles of internet users that account for both the number, but also for the variety of activities individuals do online. So as you can see here, this data that is built mostly using, EU countries, but with a very different degrees of digitalization of their economies. So it accounts for a quite large number of individuals and types of countries. So we've had 4 profiles of internet users emerging from this analysis. So there's a profile with individuals who have a very diverse and complex use of activities online, of internet. They carry out the biggest share of online tasks that are related, for instance, to e-finance, to learning and creativity. These are activities that are performed by the smallest share of individuals, and that are also more complex. There is then a profile of individuals who perform also quite diverse activities online, but relatively simpler. Fewer activities linked to finance, creativity, and learning in the second profile. A third profile relates to individuals who use the internet mostly for practical reasons. For instance, they go online for communication, to looking for information, and e-health. And finally, there are the individuals who have a very specialized and rather simple use of internet, mostly for information and communication activities. So how do these profiles of internet users actually relate to skills, and which type of skills enable individuals to perform different types of activities online? What we see here when we look at the profiles of individuals based on their skills level, we see that around 40% of people with a diversified and complex use of internet also have a well-rounded literacy and numeracy skill set. The share of highly skilled individuals is substantially lower in the other profiles. In contrast, the share of individuals lacking basic skills is more evenly distributed, but few people going online seem to lack both literacy and numeracy skills, which in other terms, put differently, may mean that lacking literacy and numeracy skills is a barrier to going online and performing a variety of activities. Of course, individuals with a well-rounded skill set are overrepresented in diversified and complex use profile, though fewer individuals are proficient in literacy, numeracy, and problem solving, rather than those that are just in literacy and numeracy. So how do skills affect the likelihood that individuals belong to a profile that performs more diverse and complex uses of internet rather than just simple uses when other sources of inequalities and digital divides are accounted for? So once we account for other potential sources of digital inequalities, such as gender, but also employment status, education status, but also country fixed effects, we see that having a good level of literacy, numeracy, and problem solving in technology-rich environments significantly increases the likelihood that individuals move from a simple use of internet for information and communication to performing diversified and complex uses. Of course, not everyone needs to perform such uses online, so we do not expect everyone to go online and perform e-finance activities, but people should be able to do so. And the current COVID context has shown that in many cases, people need to go online to perform more diverse and complex uses of internet. So they need to be empowered with a good range of cognitive skills. One caveat that I would like to mention about this analysis is, of course, that these are the type of skills that we could measure with existing data, but other types of skills are likely to matter. If you think about social and emotional skills, there has been a lot of research emphasizing their importance for thriving in a digital world. And unfortunately here, with the data that we had, we could not capture their importance on the types of activities individuals can perform online. Having a good level of skills also increases the likelihood that people take measures to protect their privacy, but also security when they go online. People with a well-rounded set of skills, including problem-solving skills in technology-rich environments, are more able to protect themselves and reduce their exposure to digital risks. Different set of skills have different effects on the type of action individuals take when they go online. For instance, managing access to personal information requires a good level of literacy skills, while using anti-trafficking software is much more demanding in terms of problem-solving skills in a technology-rich environment. So we see that the effect of skills goes much more beyond the type of activities individuals can do online, but also in their capacity to protect themselves once they perform online-based activities. Digitalization increases, as you can see, the variety of tasks that individuals are expected to perform, both in their everyday life, but also in the world of work, as I touched upon a bit at the beginning of my presentation. Individuals with a well-rounded set of skills are more likely to adapt if digitalization continuously affects their job content or their everyday activities, whereas those who lack basic skills are more likely to be left behind, and therefore there should be a strong focus of public policies. In Eastern partner countries with available data, as you can see here from the latest PISA round, we see that PISA results, so from this PISA-based analysis, we see that actually outcomes in many of these countries have improved over time. For instance, in Moldova, student outcomes in reading have improved from the first time the country participated in the survey until 2018. But although these results are improving, overall outcomes are still lower relative to international benchmarks, as you can see here in this figure. All countries perform below the OECD average in reading. Of course, some of this performance is very likely is accounted for by the level of resources, and one needs to take into account the level of resources available in an economy and the influence of economic development on the assessed performance of students. But not all of it's about resources. For instance, countries have performed relatively higher to others that are similar to their income levels. Ukraine, for example, tends to perform better than several wealthier countries, which indicates the potential for policy to overcome some resource limitations. To thrive in the digital economy, I will mention it again, digital skills are not going to be enough. Other complementary skills are needed, ranging from good literacy, numeracy skills, but also to the right social and emotional skills that are needed to work collaboratively, but also to the resilience of adapting online, self-regulating, for instance, for students when they learn online and so on. So there is a need to ensure that all individuals acquire a good level of skill proficiency already in initial education that they can build upon as they move through life. Then in education training programs need to continue developing general cognitive skills, especially as our analysis showed that in order to facilitate mobility within the labor market, general cognitive skills are as important as job-related specific skills. But the rapid pace of change at work and in society requires very flexible learning systems. These need to be both lifelong, that are accessible at every stage of life, from initial education to VET, but also in the world of work for adults who want to update or reskill. Update their skills or reskill, but also needs to be life-wide, promoting but also recognizing skills that are acquired outside of formal education systems. And there will be a lot of discussion perhaps on the world of work. I would like to stress nevertheless the importance of these foundation years and of preparing individuals from very early on in their lives. Preparing individuals for a digital society needs to begin very early. Lifelong learning, it's not about adult learning only. There's often a lot of focus put on reskilling individuals throughout life or helping low-skilled workers. But the foundations need to be built very early on in families and in schools, where parents and teachers can equip children with the necessary cognitive skills, but also digital resilience and also lifelong learning attitudes. We see that positive learning attitudes, as you see here, ambitious learning goals, value of school, motivation to master tasks, self-efficacy, these are strongly related both with higher cognitive skills, but also with very ambitious educational and career expectations. For example, when contrasting students that are similar in terms of socioeconomic background, academic performance, but also type of schools they attend, those who develop stronger learning goals are more than 3 times as likely to expect to pursue tertiary education than their peers. And developing such strong learning attitudes very early on may also help reduce gaps in educational expectations between pupils from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So this can also help bridge inequalities. These attitudes have been even more important now during the COVID-19 crisis, as many students had to learn alone from home. So to demonstrate a lot of intrinsic motivation, capacities to self-regulate, but they're also very important later in life as individuals engage in learning activities. And we know also from OECD work that many low-skilled individuals appear to have lost the motivation to engage in adult learning. So creating these lifelong learning attitudes early on is crucial. Of course, initial education is one part of the solution. So there is a need to build skills based on a broad range of policy responses. Such policy responses combine a need to ensure quality, equity, and continuity in learning throughout life, but also navigating the uncertainty of the digital economy by providing quality information about skills needs, career guidance, but also designing training systems that are much more responsive to labor market needs. And finally, taking a comprehensive policy approach is crucial, as digital transformation affects not only all sectors, but can also be affected by a range of policies. If you think about business environment policies that can leverage the potential of digitalization, tax policies that can support investment in training, but also social policies that can protect workers that are most at risk. And finally, I would like to come back to a topic that is very dear to me, and also because there has been a lot of focus put on technologies, as I was mentioning, as disrupting labor markets and also changing requirements. But technologies can also bring many solutions for learning. there has been a rise in opportunities for learn. We see now last year was again for many individuals who stayed at home, learning online was one of the options, and same for schools. And the use of digital technologies, especially in initial education, can help students develop the skills for the future and foster innovative ways of teaching and also enhancing student engagement. And COVID-19 in this respect has acted as an accelerator for learning online, whether for young people or for adults. At the same time, many inequities have been shown by the crisis in terms of students, but also adults' access to digital technologies for learning, the quality of such tools, but also the preparedness, for instance, of education systems, school leaders, and teachers at integrating these tools innovatively. Because simply providing access to digital tools, whether it's at home, at school, or at work, it's not enough to bridge divides and enhance learning. So there are a number of questions that remain with respect to how we can make the most of digital technologies in education systems. Until now, many of these technologies have been used to conserve existing practices rather than transform them. And while COVID-19, as I was mentioning, has shown the potential of using digital tools for learning, it has also emphasized the many challenges that remain. And one of the key aspects that I believe is very important when thinking in terms of policy for moving ahead is related to how we can build a systems approach to digital education. Until now, the digital learning ecosystem has remained very fragmented. A variety of digital tools for learning have penetrated schools and classrooms. There has been also limited collaboration with the private sector in this respect in terms of the design of digital education tools. So there is a need to move beyond this patchwork of solutions to build a systems approach to digital education that provides the necessary regulatory but also funding solutions to be able to seize the benefits of digital technologies in education systems, and therefore to help students develop the 21st century skills that we expect from them to be able to thrive in a digital world. And I will stop here. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion, also your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And now to give us a kind of overview of the current state of availability of digital skills in the Eastern Partner region, I'm very, very happy to give the floor to my colleague here in the OECD Eurasia division, Aljona Fried. Aljona, please.
Thank you, Bill. Let me just share the screen. Okay, and apologies for an annoying noise. If it will come, there are some works going on above, so sorry for that. Okay, so basically, I will try to be brief and to supplement Andrea's presentation with some of the data on Eastern Partner countries. In general, ICT skills in Eastern Partner countries are well below OECD average. No more than 25% of the population in Azerbaijan, Belarus, and Georgia possesses at least standard skills, which is around half of the corresponding values for OECD countries. A similar picture was also drawn by a recent survey carried out by the Ukrainian Ministry of Digital Transformation, which showed that half of the Ukrainian population had lower than basic skills, with 15% not possessing any digital skills at all. The situation in Armenia is also comparable, with 34% of individuals lacking even basic digital skills. And this is all also confirmed by the low percentage of individuals using internet and digital financial services, as seen in the graph, which hampers the successful digital transformation of SMEs who need to rely on buyers that are able to use those technologies. The foundation for digital skills are laid in schools, starting with primary education. But with rapidly evolving technologies, it is difficult for school curricula to stay up to date. And specialized skills tend to become obsolete, and curricula are rarely flexible enough to allow for ongoing changes. So in Eastern Partner countries, comprehensive digital literacy policies are still in initial stages of development, with only Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine having dedicated and inclusive educational frameworks for fostering digital skills from initial schooling onwards. I just wanted to highlight an example that is quite interesting from Moldova, which is the Memorandum of Understanding that was recently signed. between the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Education, the Association of ICT Companies, and the TechWill ICT Training and Innovation Center, which aims to harmonize ICT education in the country with the future labor market needs, thanks to inputs from all parties. So this comes very close to a good practice example from Denmark on setting up inclusive collaboration between stakeholders to foster digital skills in the population, from whom we will hear just after this presentation. When it comes to schools in the Eastern Partner countries, they lag behind OECD average when looking at the use of digital devices and teaching digital literacy. Although computers are, of course, used more frequently and most schools are connected to the internet, PISA data shows that the frequency of opportunity to learn digital literacy skills at school is still quite limited. So while a similar number of 15-year-old students from Eastern Partner countries and the OECD reported having been taught about basics such as how to use keywords when using a search engine such as Google, for example, students from the Caucasus especially lag behind when it comes to cybersecurity, such as understanding the consequences of making information publicly available, for instance. When it comes to digital technologies, as Andrea already mentioned, they have the potential to enhance education outcomes through innovative ways of teaching, and they also mitigate school failure, as we have seen during COVID and prolonged periods of school closures. However, this requires not just investing in the right infrastructure and the right devices, but first and foremost in teacher skills and teaching practices to make the best of existing technologies and devices. But in the Eastern Partner countries, rather than developing nationwide strategies to integrate digital devices for the whole education system, it is often the initiative of individual teachers bringing innovations to their own schools, which could be actually a positive aspect when teachers have above OECD average skills to integrate digital devices into instruction, which is reportedly the case in Eastern Partner countries. However, this information should be handled with care, as PISA measures the reports by principals who agree with the statement rather than actually corresponding to what teachers think themselves. So in any case, listening to teachers' voices by including them into consultations when it comes to elaborating new curricula would be essential to provide a better and more future-oriented teaching and learning experience for all. Another interesting fact is that despite ICT graduate numbers being similar to those of OECD countries, current 15-year-olds in the EaP countries show more interest to work as ICT professionals in the future compared to their peers in OECD countries. So it would therefore be really important to capitalize on this interest and continue fostering students' curiosity, raising awareness for ICT professions, as well as in and outside of school. When it comes to SME digital skills, in general, scarcer knowledge about available technologies and their benefits lead to a lower propensity of SME managers to adopt new technologies. The Digital Economy and Society Index shows that more than 70% of businesses in the EU report a lack of staff with adequate digital skills as an obstacle to investment. The picture is quite similar in the Eastern Partner countries, where, for instance, a recent survey that was run among 400 SMEs in Belarus shows that one of the top 3 barriers to incorporating new technologies into their business is the lack of qualified specialists. In Ukraine, a similar survey among 130 CEOs showed that low digital literacy also ranks among the top 3 barriers to a successful digital transformation. So in this regard, providing training opportunities to SMEs becomes especially important, also in light of the fact that larger companies tend to offer more trainings to their employees, creating an additional gap with SMEs. Unfortunately, data for EaP countries is quite scarce, but it still shows that large firms in OECD countries are 3 times more likely to provide trainings than smaller firms, while the ratio in Ukraine, because it's the only country where we have that breakdown, the ratio in Ukraine is 8 to 1. And additionally, the graph that we see illustrates that OECD countries and Ukraine, where firms more actively offer ICT training, show higher business adoption rates of technologies. Eastern partner countries have actually started offering digital skills training opportunities for entrepreneurs, but these appear to be ad hoc initiatives rather than institutionalized activities of an SME agency or other enterprise support organizations, with the exception of Moldova and Azerbaijan. Digital maturity assessments, which represent a first key step in providing SME managers with an understanding of their needs and possible digital solutions, are currently only being proposed by ODIM, so that's Moldova's SME agency, from whom we will hear in the second session. And last but not least, as mentioned by Andrea earlier, continuous training and adult education is essential for the digital economy and for supporting transitions between jobs and sectors. Lifelong learning is gaining traction in both OECD and Eastern partner countries alike, including quite frequent mentions of the topic in policy documents and an increasing amount of digital skills promotion initiatives across the countries and available for the entire population. This is, for instance, the case in Ukraine and Belarus, where freely accessible online platforms offer courses and self-assessment tools to increase the level of digital literacy in the population. Other countries conduct awareness-raising campaigns, for instance, through digital skills coalitions, which aim to provide a more inclusive and structured approach to the development of digital skills in the whole population. And for now, 4 out of 6 Eastern partner countries have established such coalitions, which are supported by EU for Digital, and they're helping relevant stakeholders coordinate their activities related to digital skills development, raise awareness, and also share best practices between all countries, including EU member countries that have established such coalitions. And my last point is that in general, the scarce data and measurement, including the lack of regular forecasting exercises to estimate the needs of the ICT workforce in the future, hampers an efficient development of digital skills in the population. And the Estonian OSCA program, from whom we'll hear in the second session as well, could serve as an inspiration for good practice skills needs anticipation techniques. Thank you, and back to you, Bill.
Thank you very much for that, Aliona. And now we turn to hear a bit from the region. I'm very happy that we have with us today Valeria Ionan, the Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. We know that Ukraine is currently undertaking quite a lot of initiatives and reforms to increase digital literacy, not only for businesses, but also for the population. And I invite Valeria Ionan to share with us what they're doing, both some of the most successful and prominent initiatives, but perhaps also some of the challenges that they're encountering in this effort. Deputy Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you, William. Hello, dear colleagues. It's a big pleasure and a big honor to be here today with you. 1 second, we will share my presentation so you can see the presentation. Yeah, so 1 second. Nadia, could you make it full size, please? Thank you. So, dear colleagues, once again, thank you so much for having me today at your conference. I would like to share a little bit of our experience. As you know, Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine is the new ministry. So we are only 2 years old in Ukraine, and we have a big philosophy. We want to transform people's lives, institutions, and businesses for better with the help of digital instruments. And we have 4 main strategic goals for the next 3 years: to make 100% of public services online, to cover 6 million of Ukrainians with a digital literacy program, to cover 95% of transport infrastructure and settlements with a high-speed internet, and to increase the share of IT in GDP of Ukraine. So trying to achieve all of these goals, we have built an ecosystem of the digital project, which is called DIA, which includes 5 different projects in it. So the first project is the DIA app. is the mobile application which gives Ukrainians access to digital documents on smartphones, which they use in everyday life. 9 digital documents are available in the mobile application. So it's driver's license, vehicle and car registration certificate, student card, citizen's passport in the form of an ID card, and foreign biometric passport, tax number, child's birth certificate, and certificate of internally displaced person. So a person can share these documents to receive the service at the bank or post, and also pay debts and fines in the application. The second big project is DIA portal. It's actually the portal where we plan to digitize all of the services in 3 years. So now it makes possible to quickly get a public service online without the participation of government. And more than 50 services are already available on the portal, including fastest business registration in the world. It allows for the person to become an entrepreneur only in 15 minutes. The third project of DIA ecosystem is DIA City, which is a particular legal framework for IT industry, which introduces incentives for its development and provides comfortable tax and legal conditions, as well as flexible form of cooperation with IT specialists. It also includes additional mechanisms to protect the property and rights of residents. The fourth big project is DIA Digital Education. It is a national project which is dedicated to the development of digital literacy, and it aims, as I've said before, to teach 6 million Ukrainians with digital skills in 3 years. So the online component of the project, it's a portal. We use the combination of learning and entertainment. There are no boring lectures, only exciting educational series with participation of experts and celebrities, filled with very clever dialogues, jokes, and improvisations. The effectiveness of the format is impressive. 70 or 80% of users watch all episodes of our series, pass final testings, and get the certificate. The platform has already been visited by 2 million of Ukrainians, and more than 7,300 Ukrainians have registered and started training. Our main teaching tool are educational series on digital literacy. There are more than 73 series for different audiences and fields of work. The offline component of the project is a network of 6,000 hubs. These are actually places, majorly they are libraries, centers for public services, schools, universities, and even public sector, where every citizen is free to visit, get free access to the web portal, DIA Digital Education, and receive training in digital literacy. Also, I can't but mention that there are more than 2,000 trainers who work in DIA Digital Education hubs. And the fifth project is the DIA Business Project, which is the biggest project on the development of SMEs in Ukraine, and which also has 2 components. The first one is a one-stop shop for future and existing entrepreneurs. And the second one is the network of support centers, of offline support centers for entrepreneurs. Turning back to the topic of digital literacy, I can't but mention that in 2019, we conducted the first national research on digital literacy in Ukraine. And making a very small spoiler, we will have the results of the second research very soon in November of this year. So we could compare how the COVID situation and all of our projects have impact on Ukrainian population in regards of digital literacy. But turning back to the research in 2019, I would like to mention that the research showed that 37.9 Ukrainians aged from 18 to 70 have digital skills below average level, below a basic level actually. And 15% do not have any basic digital literacy at all. So generally 53% of population of Ukraine are below the average mark. Also, there are some other interesting things like what digital components, what digital skills are more advanced in the population of Ukraine. So you can see here in the presentation that the communication and information skills are best developed, and problem solving and software skills less developed. And that is exactly why we have lots of different series on our platform, which are targeted on these two components. If we're speaking about the motivation, we can see that the majority of people who are really interested to study more and to learn more about digital literacy are young professionals. And on the other side, people of elegant age are not so motivated, and it takes a lot of resource to motivate them actually to join the program of digital literacy. So our work in digital literacy direction could be segmented into three big sections. The first one is the legal one. We want to make a digital literacy a priority, because before the Ministry of Digital Transformation, nobody really was engaged into this process in Ukraine, I mean, among the governmental stakeholders. So the first part is the legal one, and we want to make a digital literacy as a priority. The second one is access to knowledge. So it's about platforms, content, and everything. And the third one is to make that every Ukrainian know about this possibility that government is creating for them. If we are speaking about the target audience, they are particularly all the population. So it's the wide audience, which is segmented to different target groups, which are people of elegant age, kids and scholars, students and young professional, parents, and people of different professions like public servants, teachers, doctors, entrepreneurs, librarians, and so on. And now I would like to very briefly describe you what we have done in every of these directions. So starting with the legal framework, the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine approved the national concept for the development of digital concept in March of this year. And almost half of the regions of Ukraine, which are 15 different regions, have approved such concepts on the local levels, which gives us an opportunity to move faster and faster with the digital literacy program. We have also adapted the Digicom 2.1 frameworks for citizens, teachers, doctors, and entrepreneurs. Some of them were already published, and some of them will be published in November. We are also working very tightly with the National Agency for Qualifications to align national qualification framework and digital skills framework for citizens. We think it is very important because nowadays, when we are speaking about the standards for the profession, in Ukraine, for example, there is no section for digital literacy in any profession that you could choose. So could you imagine, let's say, a lawyer or a financial specialist when they do not have the knowledge of digital literacy? We really believe that digital literacy makes a person competitive in today's world. And if the person will have a low digital literacy, he would not find the good job in 2 or 3 years, because the majority of jobs will be automized. So the second direction, it's about the platform itself. As I've said before, it's an innovative format of edutainment. So it's micro-learning series from episodes from 7 up to 15 minutes with stop tests. So after each episode, you have to pass the test. And if you pass it correctly, you can see the next episode. You cannot see the next episode if you fail with the test. And in the end, you have the final testing and final certificate. Also, we are using a lot the principle and the approach of edutainment. So in every series, we have a celebrity which has its own audience, and it has its own coverage in social media or in informational field. And it is more easier for us to get more and more audience to our portal. Next slide, please. Yes, so the portal is available at the website osvita.dia.gov.ua, and the very small spoiler, it will be available in English in November. So we will definitely share it with you. As for the statistics, you can see the quantity of registered users on our platform for now. These are the results for 1 year and for a month, actually. So on DIA Digital Education, you see the figure, and also Ukrainian online school platform is the part of our project, and we have another figure of registration. So totally, it's almost 1 million of registered users who are using our platform every day. This is exactly what I've talked about a little bit earlier. So these are main celebrities and examples of celebrities for the series that we have. And those could be famous actors, famous singers, famous experts, or even famous footballists. We had one of the very popular course for school children during the COVID-19. So as for the key topics, they could be divided into different directions, like, for example, for beginners, or for example, special instruments for teachers, or for example, new digital professions. We have special courses on AI, on machine learning, on digital entrepreneurship, on digital marketing, on sales, on environment and ecology. So everyone could really find as an area for himself. Also, our platform has a big section on testing, which includes 2 different types of testing. The first one is the digigram test. So it's a national testing designed to help citizens to estimate their level of digital intelligence. And the result of the testing showed the respondents on how are they using the full potential of gadgets, or can they work with data, and how creative they are with the information, and so on. And there are 4 different types of tests: for citizens, for teachers, for healthcare workers, and for civil servants. The total amount for...
Valeria, sorry, I have to rush you. I know there's quite a bit left for you to cover, but we also have Emily behind you.
Okay.
I can push you to move ahead a little quickly, please.
Okay, so if I will have still from 3 to 5 minutes, then it will be all right.
More 3 perhaps than 5, if I'm honest. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. I will try to do it faster. So as for the platform, we also have tests, as I said before, digigram and ICDL, and different chatbots and different information on hotlines and so on. And I just wanted probably to say a couple of more words as you see the slides that are moving on and showing on, that we are really analyzing all of the trends in edtech sphere, and we see there are a lot of them which are regarding to XR, VR, AR. We're trying to do this in Ukraine in our project, but we really believe that the real future of education lies between mesh algorithms of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And that is exactly why we plan to restructure our platform and make our platform the first in the world, which will be totally based on the algorithms of AI and machine learning, and will give an opportunity for a user to get the individual educational trajectory at our platform. So we are doing the first pilot and launching it in the end of this year, beginning of the next year, and I will be really glad to share the results of it with you. We'll also share with you the presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to contact me, and sorry for having so much time at this conference. I didn't plan actually that I will be in this kind of situation, but it would be really great to continue our conversation maybe a little bit later in social media or in any other in any other way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very rich presentation. I'm sorry I had to rush you because it was just excellent, but we have to keep an eye on the clock, and so I pass straight on to Emily Normand, the head of the Research, Analysis and Higher Education Institutions of the Danish Technology Pact, which is a kind of key part of Denmark's strategy for digital growth. And I wonder if you could talk to us a bit about the success factors that you've identified in terms of increasing the STEM competencies and skills of the population.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, William. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation to come here and talk to you all about the government initiative called the Danish Technology Pact. I will share screen, which I think you should be able to see. I will put it in slide mode. So, is it working?
Perfect.
Good. Yes, the Danish Technology Pact is an initiative that was established back in 2018 in a partnership of 4 ministries, which are the Ministry of Business and Growth, the Ministry of Higher Education and Science, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Employment. And they decided, I'll come back to that, what was the driving force behind such an initiative back in 2018. Not only is there a ministerial collaboration, we have also established a council, which has now 19 members. And these people represent, the Danish federal organization, they represent business associations, they represent universities. So people who have been are very instrumental in pushing the digital agenda forward in Denmark. And then it's staffed by a secretariat, which is now consisting of 7 people. We have grown a little bit in size over the years. And it's run by the Danish Foundation for Entrepreneurship, where I'm based as one of the directors there. Not because it has to focus on startups and entrepreneurship, but I think we were seen as a very sort of hands-on secretariat. It was a very, actually, when they open up the bid for organizations or companies in Denmark to run the secretariat, it's fairly successful. But I think one of the thinking behind this technology pact, it needs to be very hands-on. It needed to run and manage a number of different activities. So a little bit about why it was established. It was established as part of the wider strategy that we have in Denmark for digital growth, with a very clear purpose of making Denmark one of the digital front runners. It was very interesting to hear what you do in Ukraine, the things that you're putting in place to ensure a wide awareness and use of digital skills across the country. And that's some of the things we have been working with as well in Denmark for a long time. But this particular pact has a focus on STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And there's a very clear commitment that we have identified that we need to have better STEM competences in Denmark to really be a digital front runner. So we need to have stronger math, engineering, technology courses in schools. We need to push young women and girls into STEM as well. So there's a strong notion that if we want to be successful on the digital front, we need to be stronger on STEM as well. And it's not STEAM, it's not the arts as well, it's STEM. And that's because we follow the OECD definition. So we have included partners, and they are across the board in our society. So it's companies, it's education institutions, research institutions, business organizations, foundations, private companies, NGOs, everybody who's involved somehow in technology and digitalization. And today we have more than 120 projects who are now part of the pact. And we're also part of the STEM coalition, the EU STEM coalition. So the 3 overall goals that was set about in 2018 is, firstly, that more people should be interested in STEM. Secondly, that more people should take a STEM degree. So we have a goal of 20% more Danes should complete a STEM education and 20% more vocational training. So these vocational education institutions where people tend to be between 18 and 25 years of age. And then the whole upskilling of the workforce. So those 3 goals has been critical in kind of guiding what kind of activities we take on. More people interested in STEM, that's sometimes very difficult to quantify. We set a goal that 1 million people in Denmark should have taken part in some of the projects and activities that we have in the Technology Pact, which also include a lot of communication activities. And that's also what I saw in Ukraine. And that really is a critical part of how to get people interested in STEM and how to work with families, with parents and education institutions. So just very shortly, a few sort of slides to show that it actually works very well to have this cross-goal pact, which includes a number of different organizations, because definitely the projects that we have included in the Technology Pact, and these are not projects that we fund, they are initiatives that are out there. It may be initiatives run by a local school in the south of Denmark, who has a focus on STEM or who has set up something really interesting with local companies. Those are the kind of projects that were there already, and we have then included it in the Technology Pact, not because they get any money, but because we really give them a lot of services. So we now have a little over 120 projects. We can see the spread of projects. This is a map of Denmark, for those who don't know it very well. And the dark spots you can see is, not surprisingly, there are more projects across the bigger cities. So across Copenhagen to the east, and in the middle of Jutland, both near the big cities, but also where we have what we call the production Denmark, so where we have big companies. And the kind of organizations that are part of our projects, there's an overweight of the green ones, which are education institutions, and the dark blue, which are companies. So that's not surprisingly. And then the gray are municipalities. So that's, and then organizations are the yellow. So those are the typical partners in a STEM project in the Technology Pact. And when we look at the STEM focus that they have, the green one is the general STEM focus, and the blue is very specific focus. And of that specific focus, particular IT and digital competencies is very big, 33%. The natural sciences and technology, 30%. And then engineering. So just the things that we have put in place across these 3 years that we have been in function. And I think that's something I'll share with you, because that's what we see is critical to have a very wide set of activities that the Secretariat can launch. So first of all, I mean, the political decision to create the support network that the Technology Pact is empirical, because it's not possible to further any sort of political goals, and it's definitely not possible to create impacts and results. And we follow that a lot. We measure the impact of these projects and the impact against the overall goals. So the things that we do in the Secretariat to support the agenda and create impact is, as I said, we identify projects, we are out there, we engage with project owners to help them become part of the pact and engage them to collaborate. So what we can offer in the pact is visibility. We have a platform, we do a lot of activities whereby they can engage with other projects across the country. We support the whole sort of sustainability of projects, so anchor them in where they're based, either in a municipality or in a school setting or in a partnership with business, help them to scale. So things that is happening in one part of the country can be done in another part of the country. We help them disseminate through a lot of communication activities, their learnings and their knowledge. And whenever we engage with a project, we really specify that these are key things for them to do: anchoring, scaling, and dissemination. And we do all of that through, we run a number of symposia. We've had, through Corona, had a lot of online webinars. We have platforms. We have large communication campaigns. We have our own projects, so we call Experimentarium and Techie, which is all about being out there in school. These are initiatives aimed at the younger population. Then we run funds. We very often get the questions to, is there any money for us in Technology Pact? And that's what we usually say, well, there isn't, but there's a lot of visibility. But then we do have some calls a few times a year. Last year and this year, we had 5 application rounds for very different thematic efforts. We don't give a lot of money for projects to become, it's about 200 or 300 Danish crowns. So that's about 30,000 euros. But we also run evaluation rounds, so we can assess how well projects perform. And then we produce a lot of knowledge when we gather experts and projects together around difficulties around, let's say, digitalizing SMEs, the green transition, how to get SMEs involved in that. We get them to speak to each other in our events and to engage and to form new partnerships. And we also produce a number of reports and knowledge banks. So there's something to tap into for all of these people who work in the digital space. I'm not going to get, because I know the timing is tight, so I don't have a lot of time. So I just want to say we did we had a big thematic effort in the first part of this year, what we call Inspiring STEM Education for All. So we took that theme and then we addressed it through symposia, through a call for funding, through webinars, and through some publications, and through real engagements. We also produced videos that was used across the education sector to see okay, what has others done? How have they really, there's some real critical issues around inspiring STEM, where we have a lot of, I think, obstacles in the education sector. a lot of traditional notions of how to teach them. That is definitely not inspiring. And we also have a lot of projects that we have been going into where we can see how when academics and teachers engage with businesses and SMEs, they create a much more inspiring education system, and they engage more students saying, yes, STEM is also for me, particularly young women. So they want to pursue a further higher education career. And that's really part of the goal. The whole theme of digital skills has been very big, and I know you're going to discuss it throughout the day. So I'm just going to give our quick take on what are some of the main issues to be aware of and recommendations. And we have approached this theme both last year and this year, and we ran 2 symposiums, which is basically large events. We did one in August last year, and we had one just a few weeks ago, which basically the whole question was, why are SMEs still lagging behind in digitalization when everybody knows that clearly it can benefit them, it can benefit the bottom line, it can benefit the employees. There's a huge business case around climate change. So why are SMEs not digitalizing in this space, the pace we want them to? So that's been the problem issue across our activities. And one thing, of course, upskilling SMEs is difficult, and it is really hard. And we've all been working on this topic for many, many years. So we all know, and the SMEs know, that they need to digitize, but there's a lack of examples of why and how. Lack of concrete value, lack of examples of how to increase the business model, lack of kind of the societal debate on growth opportunities. And if they want to be part of the green transition, they need concrete guidance on how to sort of optimize their strategic plans and the optimization of production. Manager and boards, particularly, and that's the problem with smaller SMEs, and we have quite small SMEs in Denmark. There's a lack of motivation and understanding of the value of digitalizations in leadership. And that's actually a very, very big agenda, that we need to upskill the leadership. And then a third obstacle we found is that the competence courses that are out there and further education really isn't good enough. And we rarely hits the spot for SMEs. So we did a lot of seminars looking at how can we improve that, what it is that they want, not only what they want, but what is relevant to them. So they want something that's on demand, on site, in time training. So not traditional courses. It's courses that embraces the fact that there are really different levels of digital skills across the SMEs. So really customized courses, also customized across different industries, with a need to work in a different way with the education institutions. And then even though we have platforms and we have support organizations out there helping SMEs, they still feel it's a jungle. And I guess that's something that we all know. If they feel it's a jungle, they need more information, but I think we need to take that seriously. Finally, we have also identified, that's my last slide, some recommendations for future initiatives and collaboration projects, because that's also something that we stress. Whenever we do activities, we really want to put stakeholders together. And we find that if we identify possible collaboration projects or things they can do together and possibility of the funding from us, it helps. And what we have identified as I think critical and relevant collaboration projects is we need more role models. So we need to not only identify and describe them, but also enable the use of role models. How have the successful SMEs been successful, and how can they inspire others? And then we need more mapping. Even in a small country like Denmark, we still need to map more of the SME-oriented activities that has a focus on digitalization. And then we need to disseminate all of these projects and activities that we identify. We need to have more initiatives that focus on digital qualifications and awareness in the boards. We see a great potential in around entrepreneurship and startups. So most young startups are born technical. I mean, they're very technical savvy. How can they inspire SMEs who are a bit slow? So that whole sort of matching up between startups and SME is something that we find actually really inspiring to do more of. We have some strong clusters in Denmark. We have a very strong robo cluster where they're very big on robotics. And how can we expand and embed the knowledge that these strong clusters have across the country? And how can we get companies with the same kind of skill competencies and skill needs to work better together around the clusters. So really involving the clusters and the foundations who work with the clusters. Vocational training, I think that's a big platform to work on. I think it's also an agenda in Europe, and it's definitely an agenda here in Denmark. Vocational training is critical to get more people into the workforce. And there we need to also have more digital understanding and competencies, both in those who teach and the students who come out and who enter the job market. And then clearly the learning formats needs to be revolutionized. They are not very intuitive. They are not easy to access. So how can you put them on employee smartphones? What apps can be developed? So we really deliver sort of on the job training courses. And then the whole green transition, it's critical for us in Europe and in Denmark to get SMEs part of the green transition. Otherwise we won't succeed. So we just had a big seminar here 3 weeks ago. And clearly we need more business models. We need more sector involvement. We need more business organizations involved in pushing for this and showing SMEs who are very aware that there's a business model there somewhere, how this can be done. So I think that's all. I will
thank you so very much.
Stop sharing.
That was excellent. And we're right up against the clock, but I'm going to trespass for at least 4 or 5 minutes on to the second session's time. Just a little bit in case there are some immediate questions to the speakers we've just heard. Perhaps the host could spotlight the speakers from session 1 so that they're on screen and we can see for just a moment if anyone wants to raise a hand or throw up a particular issue. I think Valeria Jonan actually had to go meet her minister, but Aljona and I think Andrea and Emily are still with us, particularly Emily, if anyone wants to come back on the Danish experience. I mean, I wonder, also amongst yourselves, I mean, I'm curious, perhaps I'll start while we see if anyone wants to come in. Andrea, I mean, I wonder how the Danish experience kind of stacks up to what you see across the OECD, if there were particular points here that struck you as unusual or particularly interesting.
I mean, I think the Danish experience is it's definitely a good example of one of the key messages that we try to convey with the skills outlook, of the necessity to build both a comprehensive but also very coordinated approach to how we design learning systems for individuals. I mean, here it's for individuals, and whether they are workers, but also citizens in society. One of the key messages that we had in the Skills Outlook 2019 is that, I mean, digital transformation affects all sectors, but also there are a range of policies and stakeholders that have a key role to play in building the skills individuals need to thrive in societies. So as I was listening through the Danish presentation, I was thinking that this really checks on many of the key points that we were addressing in the Skills Outlook in terms of stakeholder engagement, but working across sectors and trying also to bring together many of the I mean, both schools and local companies. And I think one of the things that I wanted to come back to is it relates to one of the key points, challenges you were mentioning about building skills in SMEs and the need to redesign learning formats. Our analysis in the Skills Outlook pointed to the fact that the costs of retraining workers, especially in terms of skills when they want to move in the labor market, but also to change tasks on the jobs, can be actually very substantial in terms of when you look at the GDP costs, for instance. And so there's a real need to design learning opportunities that combine work and learning at the same time to be able to reduce these costs, because these costs are often due to the fact that workers need to forego wages to be able to learn, which is visible for many of them and represents a barrier to engaging in learning. So I think this is a key challenge for many governments across the OECD that needs to be overcome.
Thank you. And I see we do have to move on, but there is time. There is one question directly to Emily about a specific role of DIH in the education of SMEs in the country and of whether or not they're integrated into the projects you mentioned. And also you may want to come back on what Andrea was saying, and then we'll move on, but the floor is yours first.
Well, thank you. I'll just take that question. DIH, what are they? They are
digital innovation hubs.
Okay, yeah. Well, we have a lot of digital innovation hubs, and I think because we've been, pushing this agenda for a long time, so we have something that goes on. Well, we also have what we call sort of business hubs, where we have people who are on the payroll of municipalities who advise SMEs on how to be more digital. And I think, and they are all doing very well. And we don't want to interfere with what they do. But what we have spotted, I think, at the ministerial level was that if we want to do more, we need to have education institutions involved as well. And they don't necessarily become involved in those digital hubs. It's a different mindset, I think. It's a different narrative around what SMEs need. So the knowledge that they have, in particular, I think getting into a very early stage that STEM is exciting and digitalization is exciting. You need to partner education institutions with SMEs or these digital hubs in a very coordinated way, a little bit what Andrea was saying. So that's what the Technology Pact is doing. I think we are one of the few initiatives in Denmark that has this wide number of projects that really goes across both education and early stage schooling and vocational training and SMEs. So we can do something different than they don't do out in the hubs. So I see us as supplementing each other. We work all very closely together, but our mandate is to reach out to the education institutions and also pull SMEs into the education program and the curricula as well, so that we really create this strong urgency for, yes, digital skills is exciting and I can work with that as well. But I think in the green transition, I think we will need to look at different tools as well. And I think that's a challenge that we all face in Europe. I think what are the best tools and practices to really sort of do this in a cross-border way?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. An excellent addition to the discussion. We do need to move on now, and I need to hand over the moderation to Antonio Fanelle. So Antonio, the second session is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So we move to the second section where we are going to look at a number of case studies that are dealing with the digital transformation of SMEs. And we start with Moldova with Oksana Paladiciuc. Oksana is the head of regional development and business support of infrastructure at ODIM, the SME development of the SME Development Agency of Moldova. Oksana, please.
Hello, Antonio. Thank you very much. Greetings to all of the partners and colleagues from all of the countries, especially OECD, because we've been working together for a long period of time. And also, I'd like to mention that I've been very careful when learning about experiences as assessments you've presented before. And I'm delighted to see how many common challenges and common ideas we have to develop SMEs digitalization. I will also share a presentation. Just 1 second, please. Okay. Supporting Moldovan SMEs digital skills use is very important, and it's worth mentioning that we started that by digitalizing the processes and digitalizing the activities of the organization for SME sector development itself. So already we were thinking about that, but pandemics pushed us to be in a hurry and to implement lots of solutions we were thinking about. Thus, we switched the applications without the programs to online. We also switched training, of course, and events to online, and we discovered a lot of platforms and a lot of opportunities. This process, of course, implied training of SMEs on how to use these digital new tools and how to apply the digital knowledge to what they have to do. Also, we've been helping SMEs in application online to the programs we already had on roll, and including use of other e-governmental tools like e-signature and so on, just to be in line with all the digitalization processes going on. Why SMEs? Of course, because they are the backbone of economic development. And when the pandemic started, we joined with partner development, with ICT association, ICT organizations to make the contact, because we had the ICT sector developing by itself, and we had the other SMEs who knew nothing about what they can do and what type of solutions they can apply. We also knew that SMEs have limited competencies in processing, design, and using business analytics online for their businesses. They had little understanding of IT solutions. So obviously companies didn't know what type of IT solutions they might need and where to find these solutions. Here we've been cooperating with associations I've mentioned in elaborating a database of ICT solutions proposed by IT companies from the Republic of Moldova according to the economic sector of other SMEs. So we had solutions for agri-food companies, we had solutions for manufacturing companies, and so on. Also, the SMEs didn't really know how to cooperate and how to share the information they already have in between their supply chain, as well as internally for updating their processes. Of course, they had a lack or insufficient capacities just to use and optimize the processes they have to be more efficient and to sustain more sustainable in their processes. They also, although they knew their clients, they didn't know how to use ICT marketing tools and how to use them effectively to increase their online sales because they were limited within the pandemics. This was a point where we elaborated the SME digitalization tool, just to help SMEs on multiple levels. We had the first part was the self-assessment tool, and followed by a training based on the needs of SMEs. And afterwards, the companies could benefit from two types of financial support. One was the business voucher, just to assist them in being more visible online, in developing their web page, improving their online presence and online sales. While the financial support in form of grant was also to improve the digitalization of the processes, to improve the digital equipment they're using within the companies, and to substitute some of the equipments just to help them enter the supply chain and enter these processes. Because of the today topic, I will not focus too much on all of the components of the program. We've been doing that at the previous event. I will focus more on the self-assessment tool and on skills, digitalization skills for the SMEs. So the first step we've been doing for the companies was we developed the self-assessment questionnaire. We were interested to find out what's happening inside the companies, especially on different specific topics. Although we knew the general framework of what's going wrong and what are the needs of SMEs, we needed to know specifically for different topics what we have to do and what would be the sphere of intervention. So the self-assessment tool was constructed around the 5 major modules: the online presence, the e-commerce, transport and logistics, and with the and also I will show on the next slide the other topics as well. Just wanted to stop here and show that inside each of the topics we had specific questions, and depending on the answers of the company on yes or no, they also had sub-questions to find out more details about whether they're using any online platforms, what channels of communication and marketing they're using, how they track the processes and services, how they track and communicate with their clients, what type of customers they have and how they stock different information, how they get use of different information they have from analytics, from inside processes, and how they connect all of this information. Obviously, companies had some information. They also had white spots of information they didn't know they should have. And also they have a bulk of information they have, but they don't know what to do with this type of information. So the other two were on the client services and process digitalization. And by the end of the self-assessment tool, each of the company had one of the, they knew for each of the model at what level they stay. Are they beginners, are they intermediate or advanced? So they knew the answers, we knew the answers, they also were mailed the answers, so that they also know where they should intervene and what else should they develop when they think about business voucher or business granting or even training. So the self-assessment tool, beside these 5 modules, also had 42 questions inside, specific questions that helped us to have a general overview. Based on that, so I will present some general data, some general information. So on e-commerce, although most of the companies identified themselves in e-commerce planning as being advanced, and also bearing in mind that many of them knew that they should emphasize, they should develop the online sales. They even knew what type of tools their clients are using mainly. And they also had standards in place, the majority of them standards in place, just to be ready to sell online and to be more active online and digitalize their processes. And if we go also to the logistics and transportation, we see that most of them understood that they're beginners, or they're just making the first steps in digitalizing the processes of logistics and transportation and having some digital tools in place. The majority of them didn't use any online platforms which had online sales, and no management systems were in place. They didn't have an integrated monitoring system with the shops or with other producing units or other partners from the supply chain. On the other hand, although they knew their client, they knew what are the needs of the client, they knew what the market is willing, few of them had any implemented tools like or present on online marketplaces. Either their presence on online was like a very basic web page or a very basic Facebook or like other social media pages, but those pages in many cases were not updated, had no information in multiple languages. Many of them didn't have any sales instrument or sales included in the web pages. Either they were not present in any marketplace providing this type of services. Why not moving? So sorry, my presentation is not moving. I don't know why. I will move it by that. Types of processes in digitalization. So you can see here that most of the companies didn't have any digitalization processes in their companies. No automatic system management, no management of the supply chain in many cases. Many of them lack any human resource management systems and any online systems. So based on the data we gathered from the self-assessment tool and jointly with the partners, which had the knowledge in IT knowledge, IT sector, where developed the training sessions. And I'd like to mention that the training sessions, we also had the 2 training sessions, and we've been testing, and we took into consideration several main points. Timing. So we understood what timing is best for the companies, and we also managed to have the training after the working day. So it was evening trainings for the entrepreneurs, of course, in national language, and providing online information, online presentation to the companies. Also, we've tried to have different timing, like we had 1 or 2 training per week, and then we found out that it's better to have daily training for a given period of time. That makes the company be more involved and helps them to, they allocate timing and they use it at maximum. Grouping. So at first we had the common path of training for all of the companies. While for the second training, we already grouped the companies according to their level of knowledge. So we had 3 types of groups, beginners, intermediate, and advanced. They had a given number of training, a specific training that were mandatory. while they also could join the other training if they were interested. And from the experience, we can mention that usually companies are interested in finding out or listening some of the training sessions, even that if they are advanced, they were listening for the training from the beginners or intermediate, just to update their knowledge. Information. It's very important to mention that all the training sessions were delivered by professionals, by entrepreneurs already working in ICT sector. So they could provide specific examples, study cases adjusted to the needs of a company and adjusted to the realities of the ICT sector, which is very important. Of course, an important part also was the communication and monitoring. We've been monitoring and evaluating the training daily after each training session, so that we were quite flexible due to our partners and the entrepreneurs participating, and we've adjusted the path and the methodology of training, even changing the case studies according to the needs of SMEs participating in the training. We already knew their sectors and we knew their challenges. And of course, we've tried different platforms, including we've tried a communication platform for the whole group, like we've created a Telegram group in our case, to have this daily basis communication with the SMEs, quick answer to the questions they're having, quick examples and quick interventions. So I'd like to say here that based on the experience we've had within this capacity building for the SMEs digitalization, we've come and from the whole program implementation of digitalization, we've come to with several additional actions by the end of the year of implementation. So basically, we understood that SME digitalization skills are important, and we've introduced few models on that in the long learning program what DIM is having. Basically, SMEs could apply for any digitalization or updating their digital skills training anytime during the year they want to do that. And we'll provide them with this training also according to their level of knowledge, beginning, intermediate, or advanced. At the same time, we are developing and are about to launch the e-learning platform so that we make this participation to training available and adjustable to the needs of SMEs and their program. Also, we understood that SMEs participating in the program had several needs. That's why we are finalizing the elaboration of the national program of SMEs digitalization, as well as the program of SMEs retechnologization, because many times companies don't need specifically, companies don't need the specific digitalization, but they need to update the technology they already have in place. And also we are envisaging in all of the programs we already have the assessment of the SMEs needs and the connection of the IT sector due to our partners, university and the IT organization like IT TechWheel to assess whether what SMEs are requesting corresponds to their needs. Because as I already mentioned, some of the SMEs, many of the SMEs are not aware of the existing digital solutions, and we want to help them to adjust and to apply the solutions best fitting their needs and best fitting their development phase of the company. So as far as I know, I'm out of time now. The presentation also has some details on the program, but that you'll see them when you receive the presentation. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Oksana. You explained very clearly how starting with an assessment of the level of maturity in digital transformation on SMEs, you build up a program targeting specifically SMEs and responding to their needs. Let's move to the next speaker, is David Tomatze. And here we have the experience of one of the users of the training program set up, in this case, by the Georgian Chamber of Commerce. David, please.
Thank you, Antonio. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to talk about my experience of participating in the digitalization workshop organized by Georgian Chamber of Commerce and Industry a few months ago. But before moving to the specifics of the workshop, I just wanted to offer some context so that you can identify the right profiles maybe going forward. So about a year ago, after 16 years of successful legal career in both public and private sectors, my position at a large multinational corporation was made redundant. And soon after, I've learned that a friend of mine who made a career in a hospitality industry has also lost a job due to the COVID-related restrictions. So we decided to apply our skills and expertise to try to start our own business. And the problem was that we had the market knowledge and we knew how to create a product, but we had zero experience in digital channels, let alone running a marketing campaign via social media. And it was business critical to get this right to attract customers. This is when we saw a Facebook post by the Georgian Chamber of Commerce about an online workshop aimed at assisting entrepreneurs in digitalizing their businesses. The registration process was pretty simple and straightforward. We had to complete an online form where we were supposed to provide our contact information, a brief description of our business, and the expectations from the workshop. We were all even asked to suggest a preferred time to accommodate our schedule. It was open to the members as well as non-members of the chamber, and very soon after registering, we have received a confirmation email with the details of the workshop, so we were in. The format of the meeting was organized via Zoom, and it lasted for 4 days. The timing was convenient as it allowed joining during our lunch breaks. And the sessions were organized the way to allow trainings as well as Q&A sessions for each of the topics covered, and the sessions were led by different experts in the relevant topic. During the introductory session, the participants had an opportunity to understand the benefits of digitalizing the business and considering the amount of opportunities missed by offline businesses. And we quickly came to realize that if a business is not searchable on the internet, it does not exist for most of the customers. And that was a great learning. The workshop covered a wide spectrum of topics related to setting up an online business and provided almost like a step-by-step instruction on digitalizing an existing offline business or starting a new one from scratch. The trainers explain and demonstrate how to, let's say, create a business page on Facebook, how to organize product delivery and sales via the existing local and international platforms like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and what the pros and cons of each of those platforms are. How to set up payment systems to enable online payments, how to optimize social media advertising campaigns in order to manage tiny budgets small companies have, how to create content for the customers and thus maximize engagement without wasting money on advertising, how to use social media tools to target specific audience, and how to make your product look attractive on the internet. And importantly, these theoretical discussions and demonstrations were followed by meetings with successful Georgian entrepreneurs, creating the feeling of, if they can do it, I can do it as well. And from the posts of the Georgian Chamber of Commerce, I understand that they had similar offline meetings in several regions of Georgia, but more importantly, they offered one-to-one sessions, to follow up for those who needed technical assistance in, for example, setting up a business account on Facebook or optimizing parameters for effective marketing campaigns. In addition, the Georgian Chamber of Commerce has generously offered creating a website for our business, and I understand that there's about 100 companies that can benefit from this offer. Overall, we found the workshop very practical and helpful in many ways. For our specific business, for our specific needs, however, the skills and experiences related to online advertising were the most relevant. It is a well-known fact that the #1 reason for a startup to fail is running out of money before the business even starts generating the revenue. So considering that about 30% of our budget consists of marketing expenses, we cannot afford wasting it, which is why me and my team were particularly glad to acquire technical skills required for launching a successful Facebook page and running an advertising campaign on social media. This is easier said than done, and the training did address those particular matters. And sometimes knowing the difference between the effect someone liking your Facebook page as compared to following it can save you thousands of euros per month, and therefore can be decisive whether your business runs out of money or it becomes sustainable during its fragile first days. To conclude, we were very glad to have a chance to participate in the workshop, and I would definitely recommend supporting similar initiatives going forward to speed up the digitalization process of small businesses. Thank you.
Many thanks, David, for presenting your experience. That it gave you quite good insight of how these training courses work and how they are received by the companies, by the entrepreneurs. Let's move to the next presentation. It's going to be made by Urve Mets, Program Coordinator at OSCA, the Estonian Qualification Authority, and we'll talk about the work that OSCA is doing in identifying demand for digital skills. Please, Urve.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share Estonia's experience in developing these digital skills. Now I'm trying to share my presentation with you. Is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good. In my presentation, I will focus on introducing the Estonian labor and skills demand forecasting system. And with a few slides, I talk about on the future digital skills need and gaps in the labor market. And also, I would like to give some examples of the national digital skills development projects. A couple of words about OSCA. Actually, the OSCA, it's the acronym in Estonian language. It is the anticipation and monitoring system for labor and skills demand. Approximately 6 years ago, we in the Estonian Qualifications Authority started forecasting labor and skills needs. And in developing the system, we relied on the best practices in Europe, which we applied to suit Estonian conditions. Actually, OSCA looks how many people and which skills are needed in our labor market today and tomorrow. And very important is where and how to acquire those skills. But important goal is to find out what should be changed in today's educational system and in lifelong learning system to meet the future needs. About the background for the need to establish this skills anticipation system. The main reason why there was a need to redesign the previous forecast model, actually the previous one was based only on statistics data, was that there was the lack of qualified labor force. It's named as the main hindering factor of growth by Estonian entrepreneurs. In addition, we saw that the statistical forecast model was not able to foresee these kind of rapid disruptions. The fast developing technology is affecting the jobs and skills lost, as well as jobs and skills needed. Now, like other European countries, Estonia is a rapidly aging society with a declining working age population. And the third main reason was that we faced a massive skills mismatch due to the rapid changes. So the main policy problem for us to solve was lack of skilled labor force. I will introduce the OSCA analysis methodology with only a few slides. We compile reports on 5 economic sectors every year. Since we started researching 5 years ago, today we have analyzed all areas of the economy. That makes a total of 25 areas. We mainly use the similar methodology to all sectors to have comparable results. The aim is that we can also assess the need for the pool workforce across all sectors. Forecast horizon is around 5 to 10 years. No, it actually depends on the sector. For example, in ICT sector, the perspective for labor and skills needs was a 5-year, but in healthcare, in 10-year perspective, it was reasonable not to look the shorter time horizon in healthcare, as medical training from around lasts 10 to 11 years. We combine both qualitative and quantitative methods. To this, our forecast takes into account the development trends affecting the field more. We also analyze the compliance of graduates of vocational education, higher education, and in-service training as possible with the needs of employers. We include also later follow-up of results and recommendations every 2 years after compiling the study. We evaluate the impact of the recommendations made. And the analysis process is supported by a panel of experts. A panel of experts will be set up for each sector. The expert panel brings together the best experts from among job creators, education institutions, and public authorities. It plays an important role during all stages of the study, but more on it in the next slide. Here you see a sheet of OSCA sectoral study process. Meetings of experts and topics are made on the right side with yellow background. The information required for the meeting is described on the left. Sectoral studies are compiled with a lot of input and validation by the sectoral experts panel. And during 1 year, the panel meets 4 to 5 times to discuss different aspects of skills and labor situations, supplemented by background analysis and materials. The sectoral expert panels help to look at the whole picture of the needs for labor and skills in each sector. These 5 meetings, the first meeting will identify the area based on trends. The second expert panel workshop will assess the need for labor and skills based on existing statistics and developments in the field. The third meeting compares the supply of education with the need for labor and skills. And the last 2 meetings will coordinate the main mismatches, key messages, and make proposals to address the bottlenecks. The proposals may be addressed to very different stakeholders, such as training providers, developers of curricula, professional associations, different ministries, training providers, and so on. And finally, we present the results of the study to different target groups and monitor the implementation of the results. About skills, this slide presents the main digital skills shortages that were similar in all sectors. The need for sector-specific ICT skills has increased exponentially, especially as a result of the COVID crisis. Skills such as use different web environments, ensure security, use of social media became important. And in all areas, the ability to analyze big data became a huge priority. All the skills that were on the previous slide are also necessary for the employees of the ICT sector, but also all IT professionals must have cross-disciplinary skills, which means that a software developer must have a good understanding of the IT solutions where the application he or she creates work and then vice versa. Also, IT professionals need to be able to design and develop the most efficient IT applications for customer based on their business logic. And they should have the ability to take into account and mitigate cybersecurity risks in the solutions they created. And also it's important to have knowledge of data analysis concepts and principles, and product development and design. It's important to apply the best practices in the user experience and apply to ability to apply innovative digital technology opportunities in business. Actually, OSKA is well known in Estonia, and its results are taken into account when making decisions at different levels. And the results are used both in the planning of study places, in the development of curricula, and in the planning of different training programs. I will briefly present some examples of digital pre-training and upskilling projects launched by the state. These projects are based on the results of OSKA. That's why OSKA is needed. The Ministry of Social Affairs supports the unemployed to develop the necessary skills. This opportunity has been widely used to develop professional IT skills, but why this project is in this list is that now, due to the COVID crisis, this program is open to all interested parties, including SMEs, in order to raise the level of digital skills of employees to a competitive level. One project more, based on the results of OSKA, the Ministry of Education and Science has developed an opportunity to support the development of people's professional digital skills in various sectors. The main training providers are vocational and higher education institutions, and the selection of trainings includes more than 400 different courses with a length of 50 to 200 hours. The unemployed can participate as well as all private sector employees. All people whose level of professional digital skills need to be developed in order to remain in the labor market. Actually, participation in these courses has been very popular. The ministry has been offering digital skills development training to people with outdated skills for the past 5 years already. Some examples more. The Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications also supports the development of digital skills. Here are several projects. The first one I would like to introduce is the DigiABC. The name is the DigiABC. The objective of the program was to create additional initiatives for the acquisition of digital literacy, which would support people of working age to scope as members of information society. But more importantly, increase their personal competitiveness and the competitiveness of sectors important for the Estonian economy. And the target group included 3,000 employees and 1,000 managers of forestry and wood, but also the metal and machinery industry. Unfortunately, this project is over right now. But the ministry also supports the development of digital skills of chapters with the training program named the Digital Literacy Training for Family Chapters. And the goal of this training program is to teach family physicians and family nurses the basic digital literacy skills needed in family medicine, including the use of information systems used in family medicine, information security topics, and e-health legislation. The number of participants in this project is 500 primary care workers. But one of the most well-known training project is a project called in Estonian Vali IT, but in English it's the Choose IT. And the goal of this retraining course was to train 500 software developers. It was a very practical training, which was created in cooperation with employers in the ICT sector. The training consisted of 6-week full-time contact training and 8-week internships in companies. And the target group of this retraining program was specialists of other specialties, non-IT specialists. It was the programming from scratch. The trainees highly valued the practical part of this training, and a lot of those who completed training found work in these companies. One sample more, e-course for the young people named From the Consumer of Technology to the Creator of Technology. This e-course is organized in a full web environment, and the target group is young people aged 16 to 24 who wanted to acquire basic knowledge about software development. And the length of this course is up to a bit less than 800 hours. And the training is provided by the University of Tartu, and this program is still open. These were just a few examples of digital skills development training programs, but unfortunately most of them are still active. And the great interest in participating in this program can be pointed out as a positive. But in addition, based on OSCA results, both universities and vocational schools have improved their curricula in terms of digital skills. Actually, these were just a few examples. Like I said, and it was briefly about OSCA, and and digital skills project. I thank you, and back to you, Anto.
Well, many thanks to you. You are presenting really a state-of-art program on how to forecast the needs for people with digital skills, and now actually is being used to build up programs in the case of Estonia. Let's move to the next presentation, which is also the last one. It's going to be presented by Arturas Filipponis, team leader of EU4 Digital, a regional program promoting the digital transformation of SMEs in the Eastern Partnership countries. Please, Arturas, you can start the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Arturas Filipponis. I'm a EY partner, and I'm EU4 Digital leader. And today I'll be sharing with you the concept of the EdTech Hub that we developed within the framework of EU4 Digital facility, which is part of broader EU4 Digital initiative. And just before I go into further, tell me if you see the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see clearly.
Okay, super, very good. So it was really very interesting to listen to all of you. So many great examples and developments and insightful messages to learn and to take from. And well, having the privilege to speak last, I took so many notes, yeah, and truly enjoyed the process. And I'd like to start the presentation from overview of EU4 Digital facility, and because not everyone in the meeting might know it. So EU4 Digital facility is part of European EU4 Digital initiative, which is initiative towards EaP region, run by DigiNear. And as Mr. Haubin Andremian presented, it's one of the key digital initiatives, not just for the digital skills, but for many other aspects of digital transformation arena. And here we talk about digital infrastructure, the connectivity, the access, both geographical and affordability wise. We talk about trust, security components, services, interoperability, and then of course how using all this businesses and citizens can grow themselves, how they transact, do business, and develop their own national GDPs and own careers. And all of this would not be possible without the digital skills. And the focusing now more on the digital skills topic and what we do there, I'd like to start from the citation from the Joint Staff Working Document, which is a new strategy till 2025 towards Eastern partner countries, which says that the partner countries, together with the EU and its member state, will digitally empower 1 million EaP citizens through creation of digital education platform. And this is the idea which was developed by our experts team based on this target. The idea developed to establish the program, which has instrument, innovative educational technology instrument to educate rather large volumes of people without going the traditional education way with infrastructures, with buildings, and the need for a lot of trainers. And of course, here we looked at the examples of different companies, larger companies, which have a purpose to educate multiple employees. And one of the companies is EY, our company, where we as EY have 300,000 people. And we have a badge program which aims to train and educate and give access to all of our people, 300,000 people, to the executive MBA through the badge concept. And the badge concept is basically credentializing certain skills and knowledge into something, into the credential, which is visible and which can be shared and recognized, not just within the company, specific organization, but outside in a wide range of environments. And that is the concept that we took forward when building our program. And here we started this program from the idea that we have certain challenges at the national levels. And I think today's speakers have highlighted quite well these challenges. It's the knowledge level, insufficient level of digital skills, lack of application of advanced digital methods and tools. And here we are not talking just about the basic skills. And depending on the country, the people not having the basic digital skills are ranging around 50–40%. We are talking here about more advanced digital skills with the access to the cloud, analytics, innovation, best resources which could be accessible online. Yeah. And then there is another aspect of the problems, of the challenges. It's how the citizens and people, and here we talk about simple situations like how the accountants whose job will be automated, how he transforms into the new role and position. Yeah? How the some person who has lost the job, and as we saw in the example recently, how this person is gaining additional skills and knowledge to start doing online business, to start doing digital business and the like. And one more important aspect and challenge on which we were basing our program was sustainability. Basically, how you take into account all of these developments with the future view, with the view not just give some resources to do some program and have it done, but actually how to create a system which would engage the ecosystem actors, the existing learning content and resource providers. And here I have to say that in Eastern partner countries, we have super good example of those, like Tumo Labs, like TechWill, like Ukrainian example, and how you combine all of this and take the best out of this and establish something which would be recognizable, sustainable, based on the best content and methods possible, and accessible to the region, to the citizens. Yeah, and what I'm talking about is just the planning. So this is the concept development phase. So it's not yet the results where you can take and learn, but and therefore we have a good chance of incorporating the learnings and the insights that you have shared today into developing it further. So what is the program? So it's based on the badge concept, on the badge approach. It's phased initiative, so it has certain phases of launching the badges with the focus on SMEs and scaling it. And the ultimate goal is to have 1 million upskilled learners who have badge. So the people who not just went through some course or listened to some YouTube, although high quality, but the content, but no, the people who obtained the knowledge, skills, and have confirmation, the badge that they are at certain level. Yeah. And then once it's successful, this can roll out into the further areas like for public sector, public servants, like for innovation ecosystem and the like. And going a bit deeper into the solution itself. What do we have here? We have the principles of the solution. So the program which we are building is a regional program, at least at this stage, in the foreseeable future of up to 3 years. Regional program focusing on upskilling SMEs. Yeah? It's based on the innovative EdTech solution encompassing the platform which allows access to the resources, both which are currently available and highly rated in the EaP region, as well as European and the broad geographies. It's based on the trusted recognition of competences, so the badges. And this is a very critical element. And I really enjoyed listening to some of the speakers, what you are doing in really incentivizing and motivating people to go and learn, and actually not just learn, but build on this going forward. And this badge is a very important concept because it has its own purpose. It has its own thematics. It has its own scope of number of hours that one should invest into obtaining the badges. Yes. And of course, the focus on of our EdTech program is on the advanced skills and competencies. And you might see on the screen some of the examples of the badges that we came up with. And these badges, of course, will need to be socialized with the stakeholders in EaP countries, whether these are exactly the needs of the countries, whether this is exactly how it should sound, but it gives an overview of what we can target and focus on. And when we speak about the badges, so it's not just the badge, it's the different level based on the proficiency, whether it's basic proficiency, whether it's progressed in individual learner or super proficient level. In our organization, we have it's bronze, silver, gold, platinum rating. And of course, the higher you go, the more challenging it is. So just again, returning to the example of EY. So any employee of our organization working and learning and experiencing at work can have the executive MBA of prominent international business school. Yeah? And this is a big motivation and encouragement, because once you have it, even the badge itself, without the MBA degree, it's really a recognition of certain achievements. And what we see, it drives people a lot to engage and develop and grow. Yeah? And probably the last point to mention here is the quality. The quality of this to this initiative is the cornerstone. So the high quality content and access to it, and being able to use it and in a sustainable way, I think it's one of the cornerstones. So we're not talking about one learning content provider, we are talking about the universe of learning content providers. And the last point here is the approach. So how do we put everything together? So the program at the hub program consists of certain components and phases. So we already completed the zero phase, the concept. The subject to the commission approval, there will be initiatives for batch launch for SMEs and scaling it up, and then moving into the other phases. And then the components wise, we have the learning portal with the access to the learning resources, with connectivity to credentializing solution providers, and there are many as well. So it's not a very super unique thing. Access to, then we have content element with, as mentioned, the valuable region content, but more importantly, external content, both from existing, which was developed under the in the EU, as well as by the prominent learning content providers. The governance and operating model, which starts as a regional initiative, and then after 3 years may have a different shape. And then, of course, the local partnerships, which are a crucial element in all of this puzzle, because there's so much good already done and developed that, of course, it's super important to build on it. Yeah. So that's in short about the program. This is still at the concept level. This is still can be influenced and adjusted and needs. And I think agility is the right word here, iteration and agility, because there is no one, even in this group of super prominent speakers, who knows all the answers. And of course, we do not know all the answers. Therefore, the way forward is envisioned through experimentation and trial and building on the best what's exists currently. Thank you.
Many thanks, Arturas, for presenting the E4 digital program. We have a few minutes for questions from the participants. Please signal if you have any question. I'm going to check into the chat.
May I, Antonio, ask a technical question to Urve?
Yes, please.
First of all, thank you for all of your presentations, dear Mr. Arturas and Urve and David. I have a question to Urve about the DGABC. It's more technical. So basically, you were taking the employees from inside the companies and upgrade their digital skills and reintroduce them in the company, or not necessary? Those could be people from outside the companies, from other sectors, being trained in digital skills and supported for the internship, paid internship, or the company was interested in the internship. Could you please provide some details on this mechanism?
I tried to answer to this question. I'm not very well known about this project, but I still try to answer, as I know for before 2020, a lot of programs were opened only for unemployed people or people who have outdated skills. But now, due to this COVID crisis, the target group is much larger, and also the employees are included to these programs. It's possible for them also to participate in these training programs and so on, because we all know that there was a huge mess because of this COVID crisis.
Thank you. Any other further question? Oksana, I have a question for you. Your program and the targeted support is offered to all companies. Have you seen any specific sector having a higher demand than other sectors, and any specific characteristic of SMEs that are picking up your program compared with other companies?
Yes, of course. So we had specific requests. Most of the companies were from service provider and manufacturing sectors requesting support. And if we specifically refer to business voucher, for instance, they were requesting mostly promotion and web page creation, most of the companies. And if we speak about the granting, where most of the companies applying were from the manufacturing sectors was about 24% of all the requests, and 25 were from service activities, while followed by information technology and agri-food companies. So they were mostly requesting hardware equipments coupled with software solutions to digitalize their processes. Still, even if a company was applying for a grant, they still needed support in marketing, in presence on marketplaces and online promotion of their products and services.
Many thanks, Oksana. We have time for one more question. No one dares to put the last question? Well, in this case, I will hand it over to
sorry, Antonio.
Yes,
sorry.
please, Francesco.
If I may, thank you. I have a quick question for Arturas and about his presentation, which I found very interesting. I wanted to ask you if you mentioned EdTech providers as, indeed, the provider of the educational modules. I wonder if you have already identified as some of them that could be interested in partnering with you, if it's mostly European or worldwide. If you can tell us a bit more about who you see as the main contributors to the actual education modules of this initiative. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Francesco, for the question. Indeed, in the process of developing the EdTech Hub program, we had a number of discussions, both with the potential regional partners, and as I said, we actually identified the potential organizations on the national level with whom we work, but as well with the international players. Yeah? So, of course, the program is open for many actors, and this is the purpose of the program, to engage as many as possible actors to cooperate and work on it. But we try to discuss with few. So one of them is Coursera, which is rather well known globally and has a really impressive content library, and work with the leading content generating organizations. So we had actually several discussions with them, and actually pitched and checked how they would be receptive to this idea to come and engage and become a part of this ecosystem. We as well discussed with the organization called BitDegree, who are less of the content provider, but they are focusing more on the innovative methods of engaging the people, because it's not the content what is core, is how to make people commit to learn and actually invest time into this. And what I found really interesting is the Danish and Ukrainian examples of how they do it with the celebrities and more structured ways in in Danish case, yeah, encouraging the SMEs, yeah, and we as well have the discussion FutureLearn and some other organizations. This is an ongoing process, so it's not like the goal is to select one partner and finish with it. And I'm sure that if it will be supported by the Commission, which from Mr. Robin Jamian comment was that this is the direction to go, then of course the many discussion needs to happen around this.
Thank you. We have now to conclude this session. Let me say that what we have listened is to programs that are at the same time inclusive and innovative. Inclusive because they bring in different partners around the same table, partners that usually don't talk easily together. And the other part that they really try to find solutions to engage with the companies and with the employees in order to improve their digital skills. Well, I will hand over now to Daniel for the conclusion of today's webinar. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us until now, right on time. Thanks to all our speakers and experts for the rich presentations. I hope you enjoyed the discussions as much as I did. Clearly, solving the issue of digital skills shortage is not an easy task, but I think we heard very interesting examples on how to tackle the problem from different angles. So thanks for all the interesting views and initiatives and experiences. I think what became very clear is that improving digital skills is not just a challenge for SMEs, but it is certainly another issue where SMEs are again at a disadvantage vis-a-vis large firms. SMEs do not only face greater difficulties in attracting and retaining skilled employees, they also lack the capacity and networks to identify and access talent. They can offer fewer training and development opportunities, which is not only costly, but which also needs to be organized by professional HR units, training departments, which may not exist in many SMEs. And even if an SME is ready to invest in digital upskilling, there's always the risk that an upskilled employee will look for a better paid job elsewhere. So it is not an issue that we can leave and that we can discuss alone from an SME perspective. And I think what my colleagues also mentioned in the earlier session is very important. We need a holistic and comprehensive policy approach here. We need to look on the one hand at the specific needs of SMEs, but on the other hand, we also need to look in particular at the question of what to do to strengthen digital skills among the overall population, starting from early childhood, then looking how to promote digital skills through the entire education system, while then also creating opportunities for lifelong learning, deliver digital skills through workplace trainings and in close partnership with VET and higher education institutions, as well as, and I think that's critical, the business community. So I'm very much looking forward to continue this discussion. We will meet again in about 1 month on the 19th of October for our third webinar in the series, where we will then want to look more deeply, specifically into the question of what SME agencies can do to work with SMEs, to work with entrepreneurs on addressing those challenges through tailored programs, through tailored support initiatives. I'll stop here. Final point to mention is that we're planning to run a small satisfaction survey, which we will send out today, tomorrow. And it would be great if you could just take 2 to 3 minutes to complete it. It's important information for us to understand, to hear about your thoughts and maybe get some ideas for our future webinars. So thanks again for joining us today. Thanks to the European Union and to Poland for the financial support. Thanks to all our experts, to my colleagues from different parts of the house. And last but not least, thanks in particular to our interpreters and to our entire support team working in the back office for having made this meeting possible. Thank you and hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.